Hello everyone, I'm Arali and welcome to my Freelancer review in 2021. So recently on stream I finished playing through the game and we had a blast. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. For me it was a lot of nostalgia and stuff because I used to play it, but I know I had a lot of people on stream that didn't know the game and they asked me like, oh, did this recently come out? Is this something? Because for a game that was released in 2003, it actually looks really good. And people kind of asked me like, okay, well, you know, what's with this game? You know, what's going on with this game and stuff. So I wanted to kind of take some time because I know people weren't able to really follow my streams and stuff, and maybe people don't want to go back to watching all of my streams and stuff. So I figured let's do a review after everything and kind of wrap everything up and talk about all the stuff. So first of all, I want to talk about the good stuff, and there was a lot of good stuff in there. There's a huge ship variety. I only showed off a few of them on stream, but there's a ton more that you can get. And while we're talking about the ships, there was also the ships that you did get. They were specific to what area you were in. There were specific Kusari ships and specific Liberty ships, and they all had like their own kind of design. They all followed the same kind of design. So based on what the ships looked like, you could tell what area of the Sirius sector they were from. And it was really cool because you had the Kusari ships that had the little sails on there, the like bat wings or whatever, and the Liberty were more like plain looking ships, and the Ryland Space had like green looking ships and stuff. So it was really cool that way to have a ship variety, but based on like where you were, and also have a variety like throughout the whole game, but then be able to tell them apart and stuff. So it was really cool. Another thing that I want to talk about is the actual worlds, the different zones and stuff. So they kind of give you the Sirius sector, and they have all these like nebulous clouds on there, the different colors and stuff. But they also, when you're in the actual zones, you can tell kind of where in the world you are, because you can see the other zones from in the game, where you can see, oh, okay, on this side over here it's all like orange and yellow, and that's the Ryland Space, and then on the other side it's like green and stuff, and you know that's where like the outlying sectors are, and then you have the white where the Bretonian space is and stuff. So they kind of did a really nice job of making you understand like where you are in the world, and really making you feel like this zone is in a specific spot, and kind of putting it all together as in like a whole map that didn't feel like just open space where you didn't know how they all interconnected. Because I know there's a lot of games out there that you fly around in space and it's maybe just around this one planet, and you don't know how it interconnects with the whole galaxy as a whole, or the whole whatever area sector you're in or whatever. And this game really made you feel like, oh, okay, I'm in this space over here and it's so far away from this space, and that's why all the nebulas around here are blue, because we're in the Kusari space and stuff. So they really did a nice job of making you feel like the environments were different, and it was like a whole different world that you had. Another good thing was the weapons and the combat in general. So combat seemed sometimes a little complicated. There was a lot of buttons that were involved in the combat, but it's very simple because you just press like one mouse button in order to actually fire, and you had just your set of weapons that you could turn on and off, and then you had some missiles and stuff that you could add on there. But it was all fairly simple and very easy to control as well. So the combat felt really nice, and you could have like little battles here and there and make them feel exciting, even though you've probably done this like dozens of times, but we just got new weapons, so oh, now it feels a little bit different, or we got a new ship and now it's a little bit different because we have more weapons or stronger weapons or whatever. So I think the combat and the weapons were really great, and specifically again the weapon variety. There was a lot, you know, different classes of a certain weapon, but then also you had like a bunch of different kinds of weapons and stuff. So it was really cool. The next point was a decent story. So it sounds like a decent story would be a bad point, but it really wasn't. The story was really good. It just had a very abrupt ending, and a lot of the stuff was like hopping around, but we'll get into that more when we talk about the bad stuff. So the story itself though was very good. It talks about the freelancer that you are, and you kind of get thrown into this like alien story, and it's a very interesting twist on an alien story. It's not the regular where you fight these invaders that are coming to your space. You fight the keepers of the ancient alien artifacts and stuff. Like these are aliens that were left behind by the old aliens, by the Dom Kavash. So you're you're not actually fighting the aliens, but you're fighting their pets, so to say. And it's really cool because since they are pets, they don't really have like an intelligence, like you can't really communicate with them. They're more like a hive mind of sorts. So it really makes it, they probably had restrictions on how to do the story and how much voice acting and all that stuff, but because of the story, it kind of goes with it because these are just little pets of these ancient Dom Kavash, so it explains why you can't really communicate with them. So that was really cool, and it kind of goes into the story, goes into the voice acting. Everything in the story was voice acted, which was great, and you had all these like talents like Jennifer Hale in there and stuff. It was really cool. But then you also, outside of the story, had a lot of places where they just had these lines of dialogue. You just fly around in space and you come across some spaceship and all of a sudden they're like talking to you, or they're talking to different, you guys didn't see on stream, but I went down one of those trade lanes, and the trade lane was interrupted, and there was someone that was trying to steal what I had on board. I had something that they wanted, and they were like, give it to me, and then they started attacking me, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, it was so random, but it was so cool because it really made it feel like a living, breathing world that you're in, like a part of. You had these different convoys that went around, and there's voice acting and stuff, and you could like follow them around. So they did a nice job of creating this like actual world. They had the world as the zones and the environments and stuff, but then also had the different ships and the different stations and all these different little stories that were in there, I guess, of these people traveling around and stuff. It was really cool. So, and the last big point that I had was the music. I thought the music was really good. There's a couple of tracks that I like really love, and it feels very nostalgic, but it also helps to, again, create a world and create this atmosphere, because the Kusari space has a very specific soundtrack, and then the Liberty space has a very specific soundtrack, and it makes you feel like, oh, we're in a different part of this world. Again, they probably had a big challenge of making space feel different as you go along. You can't just have it feel like this open-ended space that you can't do anything in or whatever. So they really had to create all these different things to make it feel like an artificial world, and I think they did a really nice job, and the music is a big part of that. So those were all pretty much all the good points. Then let's talk about the bad points here, because you know, you gotta have the bad points too. So the story was good, but it was kind of short, and it kind of abruptly ends, and I think that has to do with them having plans of actually making another game, and that never came into existence. But it just kind of abruptly ends. Like, you open this hyper gate, and apparently all the nomads get sucked through it, which that by itself is already very strange, but then that's kind of it to the story. No one really talks about it. You can read some new stuff, you get a little epilogue about, oh, okay, we'll need the freelancer, blah blah blah, whatever, but it just kind of ends and you're like left with nothing, which, yes, in a regular game that would be normal, but this game feels more like, oh, okay, we could have some missions or something afterwards. Like, that would be kind of cool to have some missions dealing with leftover nomad things, or exploring these worlds that you just went to, because a lot of them you're kind of actually blocked out of. You can't go back into these old worlds, like where the Dyson sphere was. Like, I don't think you're able to actually go back into that world, and even if you did, I don't think there is anything out there to do. So it'd be kind of cool if they had some missions that you could do afterwards. And talking about the missions, I also think that the missions, the side quests that you had, were so boring. There was about 3 to 5 kinds of different missions, side quests that you could do, and they were all kind of the same thing. They were all, oh, hunt this group of people, or hunt this particular person, and then there was like a variety of that. Like, if you go hunt this guy down, you either bring him back or you kill him. And then you had like destroying their station, like this enemy had built a station somewhere, and you have to go destroy the station. Sometimes it's a weapon platform, maybe it's a big station, or maybe it's just like fighters flying around, whatever. So there wasn't a huge variety of stuff to do, and it was just kind of like, it didn't feel like they really went all the way with it. I don't know if it had to do with crunch, if they had like a specific deadline they had to meet, because I honestly think there was a lot of different stuff they could have done. They could have done like actual convoy stuff where you have to like escort these people, like escort quests or something, or discovering this like new world, like a new zone or something, or helping with construction of something. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they could have really done with it that they didn't do. But there was also the thing with like the racing, for example. You in the story have to do a race, and you never ever have to do that again after that. So it's just kind of like, okay, that was kind of cool, I like that, but you don't have to do that after that. So that would be like a cool side quest to have and stuff. So I don't know, there's certain things that I think they could have expanded on, but I think, like I said before, I think they had the problem of they were making another game and they weren't like making DLC for it or anything. They were just making a second game and it never came into fruition. So that's kind of a sad part of the whole deal with Freelancer. Then we also had the alien designs. So the aliens design was kind of boring. They looked really lame. I mean, we saw the actual aliens and I always questioned, like, how do they go into their ships? Like, their ships look nothing like them. They don't have actual like doors, no cockpits. Like, it looks really weird. And also when Rhineland is building these massive battleships, these like alien designed battleships, they kind of just look like the alien battleships. And how would you construct them? Because they look biological, and how would you be building biological stuff? Like, there was no metal or anything on it, so it seemed kind of weird. They didn't say like they grew them, like they built them. So it's like, okay, how did they build them? I don't know. That was kind of, I think they could have done, like, the ships look kind of boring. There was only like 3 types of alien ships, and I think they could have done a little bit more with that, but you know, it's whatever. I mean, it's early 2000s and that was kind of like popular around the time. But kind of going back into the story, I also think the story not just only ended abruptly, but it also like jumped around a lot, because we would go to like the Kusari space and we like are on a mission to like find something, and then we find it, and then we're like, okay, let's go halfway across this whole sector because we're completely done with this. And but aren't we like looking for allies and stuff? So it seemed kind of, the story was short because they didn't really expand on each area. Liberty in the beginning, where you are, you kind of expand that whole area because you're doing all these different missions and they're kind of trying to introduce you. But by the end of it, like Rhineland, for example, I feel like we dealt with the Rhineland military the whole time, except for when we were in Rhineland. And Rhineland, we just ran away from a couple of patrols and there wasn't really anything like huge. We did come across the fleets and stuff, but I feel like that was like even before we got to Rhineland and stuff. So it didn't, I don't know, I feel like they could have done a little bit more with the story instead of having it bounce around. There was a lot of areas they could have had you go to and stuff. So it was a good story overall anyway. So there's just like minor things. And then parts of the story as well, there were some deaths. There were some people that died and it didn't really seem significant. Like some of these people, I'm like, okay, this guy just got introduced last story and now he is dead. Okay, do I care? I don't know, should I care? Like, I'm not sure, because it seemed really irrelevant that he was even there in the first place. So I don't know, I think they could have done a little bit more. Like maybe if, like, for example, King would have died, that would have been more of an impact, because he was there during our like first mission and stuff, and he was there like way in the beginning, and that would have been a bigger impact. I think when Walker sacrificed himself, that was probably the biggest impact, because he was a guy that was there from the beginning. But again, I don't think we spent really enough time with any of those characters in order to really feel like, oh my gosh, that was a very like significant death, you know. So, but it's just a couple of things about the story I think that they could have done better, and they probably would have done better if they ever had released a second one. So, and that's kind of what I want to end this whole good bad thing on, is kind of, there was no DLC and there was no second story, and we didn't get anything after the main story. And yes, we are waiting on Star Citizen, but that thing has been in development for 9 years and I don't have like huge hopes for it. I mean, it was one of the biggest like Kickstarter campaigns to have ever been made or whatever, but they still haven't released the game. And then they recently, last year I think, they split it into like a single player thing and then a multiplayer thing, and it's becoming like 2 separate entities. And I don't know, it just seems like they still don't have anything significant after 9 years to release. And I think that specifically with Kickstarter stuff, you gotta like put yourself on a timetable there, because you're taking other people's money pretty much and making all these promises, but then you're not releasing anything. But you know, that's a whole different discussion. But that kind of, if that ever comes out, I hope that maybe they will put a lot of references to Freelancer in there, because it's supposed to be the spiritual successor to Freelancer, and I would really like it to be that. And I really wish that Freelancer, as an amazing game as it is, kind of get something like a spiritual successor that can kind of carry that on, because I think Freelancer came out at the wrong time. If Freelancer were to come out around now, I think a lot of people would jump on it and there would be a second one, and I think there would be a lot of modded stuff that would happen and stuff. I will point out before we end this video that there is a modding community out there, and there is a big mod going on which is called the Discovery mod, and I did talk about this during the stream, and I did try to make it work on my machine. I couldn't really get it to work. I don't know, I didn't try for too long, but if anyone's interested in the game and you want to play online maybe with your friends and stuff, there is still active people on there. From what I heard, there's like 30 to 40 people still online at any given time, which isn't that many, but you know, it's better than nothing really. And they have like, the Discovery mod has like a ton of new ships, a ton of new worlds, a ton of new weapons. Like there's all kinds of stuff in the Discovery mod. The last time I played that was a few years ago, and you kind of, they drop you in and you can become whatever you want. You want to be a merchant, a miner, a pirate, you know, work with the police. Like you have all these options that you can do apparently, and they added like a ton of different worlds that you can go through, and it's really cool to see. And so if anyone's interested in that, it's called Discovery, and you can easily find that online. And yeah, and they have like a big community of people, I think, that still mod the game and stuff. So that's kind of, I guess, my only positive thing on like the continuation of Freelancer and stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed the game. I thought it was really great, and I think that anyone that's interested in like a cool, easy to pick up space simulator shooter kind of thing, that give Freelancer a try and explore the story, and then just kind of go around and explore the rest of Sirius Sector by yourself. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't show off that you could see, and it's really cool. There's one particular part that I'm thinking of that back as when I was a kid really excited me, and it had to do with like on the edges of the Sirius Sector you can find really cool stuff. So yeah, and that's gonna be it for me today. If you guys enjoyed this review, give it a like, leave a comment down below what you thought about Freelancer, and maybe have a look at my playthrough if you haven't. And yeah, so, and that's gonna be it for me for today. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.